In this lesson, we're going to talk about using primitive objects to get the shapes that we need, and we're going to talk about dealing with our normals. Here's the object that we're going to create, and you can see it's just a basic plane, and we do have a half of a sphere here and a half of a sphere there. One's going up, one's going down. So before we start, we need to kind of prep our geometry and look ahead a little bit as to what we need to do. So first off, let's go ahead and control right click, go to Edge Ring Utilities, to Edge Ring and Split. And we're going to do that twice. I just hit the G key on that one to do the last function. Now we have 4 quadrants set up, and we'll do one of these in each of the quadrants. So we know that if we do any sort of a Boolean operation or whatever we're going to do where we have 8 sides, in this case we'll use a sphere, but we need a center line running through, and then we need either one coming from the corners or we need extra ones here. Basically, we need an opening that we have 8 sides on to correspond with that 8-sided sphere. So for this one, let's go ahead and I'm going to split these one more time. So each of those quadrants now has a center point. And for this one, let's go ahead and use the object to get the shape that we need on here first, rather than doing the Boolean. You can do the Boolean as well, but it's kind of nice to see both methods on this. Alright, so we'll get those splits in there. Now let's go ahead and create our sphere. We'll turn wireframe unshaded on so we can see what we're doing. And let's go ahead and snap that right to that point there. So there's our edge, or excuse me, our quadrant that we're going to be working in. Let's go ahead and scale this up a little bit. So we're roughly in the same size as what we have over there. And of course, we need to change our subdivisions to 8 on that. So there's the object that we want to work with. And I'm going to go ahead and right click on this. And I'm going to go to existing material. I'm going to go back to our original Lambert. Just so when I rotate right here, I'm not seeing this highlight. Just makes it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. I'm going to go to my top view. We'll go ahead and turn the grid off so we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to take this object and I'm going to Shift D to duplicate it. And I'm going to snap that right into there. I'll take this, I'll Shift D again, and we'll go over to there. And then Shift D one more time. And we'll go to there. Alright, I think we could scale these up just a little bit, maybe to about there. Now let's go ahead and take this geometry and we'll prep it for what we need. I'm going to grab these 4 faces and I'm going to delete them. And that's going to give us our 8 edges that we need to combine these. Alright, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab some vertices and I'm going to go ahead and just snap those to those outer edges. And you know, again, just like in the previous lesson, we may be pulling these away from the y-axis, but that's okay. It's much easier to snap them like this. Otherwise, I would have to grab handles and do it in 2 directions, and it just takes longer. So this is a much faster way to do this. Alright, so moving down here, grab all of these, get that one in there. And so what we're going to end up doing here when we're done is we're just going to take our spheres, we're going to delete the top and the bottom halves on them, and then we'll just combine this information and we'll weld all of our vertices together. Now one more thing that I do want to do here is I just want to kind of straighten up my grid a little bit. And so I will just grab a few of these. Notice that I do all the same direction at the same time. And if we wanted to, we could do multiple points at the same time as well. So I could grab that one and that one. And then I could go like that. So get that moving in that direction. It's pretty much whatever works for you. All right, so I'm going to finish straightening all these up. I'm going to pause the video really quick, and we'll come back and I'll have everything straightened. All right, now I got all of this grid straightened in here. Everything's nice and perfect. Let's go to here, and it doesn't look like we did pull anything off of that because these were actually centered, so that's good. Even if not, it's really not that big a deal. We know that we can always grab them and snap them up to that point anyway. All right, so let's grab this, and I'll go ahead and grab these faces, and I'll delete those ones. Same thing here. We'll grab all of those bottom faces and delete them. And then these, of course, we're going to delete all the ones that are on top. And it looks like we did it backwards from that one, but that's okay. Now let's go in and grab all of these, and we're simply just going to do a mesh combine on those. And let's see what happens when we hit the 3 key. Turn wireframe on shaded off. And you can see this is a little weird. You know, we're not smoothing out on the corners. So something odd is happening here. And right off the bat, I'll tell you that we combined these and we did not merge any of these vertices together. Now, a really, really cool thing that you can do to check this is you can jump in here, and I am on the shape node for this object under Mesh Component Display, and I'm going to display borders. And you can change this if you want to make it a little bit more obvious. I'll go up to like 5. But what you'll see is we have these border edges right here, and this tells us that that is a shell border, meaning this is one shell and it stops right there. This is one shell and it stops right there as well. So we don't actually have these merged together. They're combined into one object, but the verts aren't actually merged. So I'm just going to grab all of these vertices. I'm going to go to Edit Mesh. I'm going to merge those components together. You see that it merged those two, but it didn't merge these ones. So we still have a hard edge on those ones. So if we go through our little checklist, I can grab a vert right there. Again, don't marquee over it. You just want to click on that. And I'm going to move it. And you can see that we indeed do not have vertices on top of each other. They are actually welded together, but we still have a border edge. Usually what this is going to tell you is you have normals that are reversed. And you can see here that we have normals facing up here, but they're not facing correctly in here. And that's just because of the way that we created this sphere. All of the normals were on the outside of it, and they're facing away from us on the inside. And that's the information that we're using here. So we do need to go and grab all of these faces, and we'll go to normals, and we'll reverse those. And you can see that that border edge now goes away. So we'll click that and turn that off. And now everything smooths like it should. So that's good. All right, we need a little bit of information on these corners to hold this shape a little bit better, because if you look on this one, we have a bevel, and this one's just getting really, really round. All right, we'll go to edges, and we're going to go through and grab each of these. You can double click on these if you want, but generally speaking, when you double click and you run into a 5-sided star like this, where you have 5 edges coming into one point, it will stop and it won't let you do the double click all the way around to grab that whole ring. So if you're double clicking on those and it's not going all the way around, now you know why. All right, so we got all those selected. Now let's go ahead and do Edit Mesh, Bevel. And we'll go to our bevel node and we'll do 2 segments in there. Maybe we'll tighten this up a little bit, maybe like 0.3. That looks good. All of our forms look okay. So let's go ahead and hit 3. If you want to double check this, we can right click and go and put that blend back on it. Now we get that nice highlight. And everything looks good. All right, so in this lesson, we talked about using a primitive object not only to get the shape that we need, but to also use it as a reference object to cut out the shape that we need. We also talked about controlling our normals and what that can do to our smooth. See you in the next lesson.